Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name's Corporal Killjoy, and to kill your boredom brings me a lot of joy. And welcome to a new type of video, one that I said I was going to do in my Ruby Chibi video. Now is to answer some questions about the military, whether it be something related to boot camp or just the military life in general. And these are various questions that I have personally been asked throughout my career, even after I got out of the Marine Corps, and then there are questions that exist online, which are pretty much the same, if not very similar to them. And this is also going to help out with anybody looking to go into the military, just to get an idea what the military life is all about. However, I can only truly speak on behalf of the Marine Corps. You know, I can't speak on behalf of the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force, even though, you know, I've had a chance to work with everybody from those branches. You know, I got to work with airmen, I got to work mostly with sailors, because you know, Marines and sailors traditionally work together, and did get to work with some soldiers. So unfortunately, this is only going to be really for the Marine Corps. I'm pretty sure some of these questions will or can also be applied to the other 4 branches. So let's get started with the first question. First question is, what do I do to prepare for boot camp? Okay, so this question is very common because everybody has this fear of going through boot camp, which I think is one of the reasons why some people, mostly teenagers who are just getting out of high school or might be still in high school, thinking about a career, and it's just like, oh, I don't want to go through boot camp. I want to go all through the yelling, all the running, all that stuff. Look, here's the thing about boot camp. Anybody can get physically fit for it. Like, you can be, you know, the best runner, the best guy who does pull-ups, the guy who does the best crunches, but really it's all about what's up here mentally, because I've seen guys like in terrific shape, like Usain Bolt shape, who were good physically, but they just couldn't, you know, hash it out mentally. That's the part that kills me, is just that the Marine Corps, especially in boot camp, will find a way to break you, and that's how they weed out the weak ones. Because I can guarantee you, in each platoon you go to, for me when I went, there was 6 platoons in total, and I can guarantee you, at least one person from each platoon didn't make the cut. So either they got dropped back to an earlier training day to start over. It's kind of like going through school. You know, if you weren't ready to move on to the next grade, they make you start over, something like that. But one guy, and just for future reference, I will not say any names up here to avoid scrutiny, and I'm also trying to protect some of these people. So we'll just call him Boo Boo for now. So Boo Boo, you know, just couldn't hash it out. I mean, I remember it was our first weekend. We went on a little ruck march. It was just like, you know, simple 3 miles, simple backpack, something too serious. And you know, drill instructors are yelling at us, and he just couldn't take it anymore. You know, he's just like, I want to go home. I want to do all this. I don't want to be here anymore. So, with that being said, they didn't drop him right then and there. But, you know, he got his attitude better, you know, act together, and he actually did start doing good. But what happened was when we got to the rifle range, it was like, within our second week at the rifle range, he started, you know, messing up. Our senior drill instructor couldn't take it anymore, so they dropped him back from training day, I want to say 38. Might have been a little further down, maybe training day 40 something. I can't remember which one. It's hard to keep track of what days you're on in boot camp sometimes. But from what I heard, he got dropped back to training day 6. That's like receiving, getting your gear training day. So yeah, you know, just, you know, mentally be ready for it. How do you train and be mentally ready? Just get used to the idea that you're not going to be in your comfort zone. You know, they're going to be up in your face no matter what you're doing, you know, whether it be wrong or right. And down the road, you will kind of start getting used to all the yelling and stuff, because your body's going to be more disciplined to instructions. And that's the whole thing, is building discipline, building, you know, the mental structure, staying calm, keeping keeping your bearing, all that good stuff. So I think that's the best way. Again, physically, anybody can get ready for it physically. Remember, it's all up here. Okay, move on to the next question. How do I know what job is good for me? Okay, now I've gotten this question before. What do you call it? About a year in, I took some leave home, and one of my old friends from high school was just like, you know, how do you decide your job and what would be the going for me? What happens is that you take this test. It's called the ASVAB. If you guys wonder what ASVAB stands for, it stands for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. And yes, I am looking to the side of it, because I honestly never knew what it meant either. I just kept calling it the ASVAB. And what the ASVAB does is it gives you, it's basically a test for a multitude of things, from clerical skills to grammar to mechanics, electronics, Basically a lot of things. I'll ask you these questions for a reason, because your knowledge on these things are your basic stuff that you learn in school. For me, my clerical skills, or math, simply put, they were pretty high. So I had a lot of options for, pretty much being a desk jockey. As far as mechanical, I got a 95 on my mechanical score. But unfortunately, that 95 to the Marine Corps' eyes basically means that I don't know how to turn a wrench. And I remember those questions on mechanics, and they were horrifying for me. I didn't know which one would be the right answer. Even when they showed you pictures, I had no idea what the right answer would be. It all looked the same to me. So it's all about your ASVAB. My ASVAB score in total was a 56, so I had a good number of things listed out for me that I can do. But what happens is certain MOSs will have a minimum score. But if you want to go to something else, let's say if you want to be what I was, a financial technician, and your clerical score minimum needed was 110. Okay, let's say you have a 106 in clerical. So it may seem that you won't get it, but the Marine Corps offers a 5-point deficit. So what that means is that if you're within 5 points of that MOS, you could apply for that. If you're in 6 points, that's basically on the recruiter to say yes or no. So be cool with your recruiter; he might hook you up. But just really think about what you want to do. Do you want to go out there and fight? Do you want to be the guy who works on tanks, on aircraft? Do you want to be the guy who's stuck behind a desk handling money like I was? So it's really about all what you want and what's available. But always remember, there's this thing in the Marine Corps called the needs of the Marine Corps, which means if they do need you, hey, come on, we need you. But if they don't, they'll just tell you, hey, go look for another job, basically. Because anybody can be a grunt. And if you want to be a grunt, go out there and, on the front lines most of the time, by all means, go be a grunt. Because no one's going to judge you. If anything, more power to you. But I've seen the lifestyle of the grunts. A lot of guys are miserable. Some guys like it. But again, the Marine Corps is what you make it. So, with that in mind, moving on to the next question. How do I prepare for any type of deployment to Afghanistan/Pakistan? Okay, here's the thing. If you are selected to go on a deployment, sometimes they'll even ask, hey, who wants to go on a deployment? Or a MEU. If you guys know what a MEU is, it means MEU, Marine Expeditionary Unit. And most of the time, when you go on a MEU, you're on a boat, and you train on the boat. You train, how to combat against, like anything like pirates, maybe. You actually get to shoot the pistol. You get to shoot the United States Marine Corps 45 pistol. I never got that opportunity, but they'll definitely train you. But from what I heard, being on the boat can suck over long periods of time. Because I went on a cruise before I went to the Marine Corps back in 2007, and after you explore the ship, which you could do in one day possibly, it gets boring really quick. So keeping your mind occupied is a big thing, and they stop at different ports. I know some buddies of mine, they stop in like Spain and Italy and some other places. But as far as a deployment to danger zones like Afghanistan or heavy war zones like in Pakistan or wherever really, Marine Corps goes where they're needed. They will always have pre-deployment training. So you can go through these new simulators where you can do like convoys. It's like a giant video game almost. You're in a circular room. It's like a full 360 screen, and you're just operating this truck, and they're connected to like 5 individual rooms. And the cool part is that if you get out of the vehicle, an avatar, like a really well done avatar of a Marine, will move around it, not as you do, but it'll basically saying, hey, you're exposed. And they can actually make the simulator work to where you can actually drive around, take enemy fire. And it's good that we have training like that, because being that I was a desk jockey, I went there twice. The first time, I think it was just like my gunnery sergeant was just like, hey, who wants to go try this out? I'm like, oh, I do. I was super excited. And we failed miserably. One of the reasons is because we've never worked around equipment like this. And 2, because we were desk jockeys, we were indoors handling money most of the time, so we didn't get to do that a lot. And when we failed, our gunnery sergeant was just like, hey, why did we fail this? And I was the first one to say, well, we don't do enough for this training, which is another problem, not just in the Marine Corps, but I believe in the military. We need to do more cross-training with other things. If you're a desk jockey, why not go out and train with some grunts? Go to what's called Mount Town, which is basically like a makeshift town in the Middle East, and basically you learn how to clear rooms, how to work in a unit, and it really does help, in my opinion. And if you're in the military right now, someone says, hey, wants to go to Mount Town, don't be scared to raise your hand. You know, by all means, go for it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, they'll always have pre-deployment training, no matter what. So just be faithful to your fellow Marines during the training, because we use what's called SEM rounds, which is basically like a paintball round, but it's actually chalk, and they hurt like hell, especially when you hit straight on bone. I remember I got hit in the hand, and I was missing some skin. That fucking sucked. So, also, safety. Safety is big on that. Alright, moving on to the next question. What are some benefits that the Marine Corps offer for education? Actually, the Marine Corps offers a number of benefits. If you actually get the GI Bill, there's two. There's the Montgomery GI Bill, and then there's the post 9/11 GI Bill. Now, the Montgomery GI Bill, from what I could tell, that's the one I applied for. I didn't even bother looking at the post 9/11 GI Bill. It's just like, hey, I want this one. Basically pays for all 4 years of college. Now, here's the benefit of the post 9/11 GI Bill. That means anybody who enlisted after 9/11 is that not only will they pay you, they're paying for your college, but you also get paid the same pay rate of a sergeant to go to college. But at the same time, they're expecting you to attend classes, you go to your classes, and you make sure you pass. Otherwise, you got to give that money right back. But that being said, you can also get education, you know, while you're in the Marine Corps. You can take night classes. You just gotta let your command know, hey, I want to go to. It doesn't even matter what college you go to. If it's one out in town near base, for me, there's a community college nearby, and one of my Marines, he went to it. You know, I wish I was that ambitious, but I was worrying about other stuff, so I didn't really care at the time. But yeah, the number of educational opportunities is a lot. You know, whether it be paying for college or getting that degree while you're in the Marine Corps, it can go either way. So again, if you want any more information on that, talk to a recruiter, or once you get into the fleet, which is after you do boot camp, MCT, and your MOS school, feel free to talk to your command, let them know, and just go from there. And with that being said, next question. Is it possible to work 2 jobs while in the Marine Corps? Absolutely. That's what I did. Because I was a desk jockey, and I know it might sound like I'm insulting other Marines when I say desk jockey, but you know, when you work behind a desk, you know, I found no, what do you call it? Goddamn, what's the word for it? Insults from it. You know, that's what we were. We were behind a desk, we were on computers, and we handle stuff on, you know, a technical level. You know, I was a financial technician, so I had to handle money all the time. But more to the case, I worked at Subway on the base. One, because normally the office hours where I worked, if we were lucky enough, we would get out at 1700, which for anybody who doesn't know what that means, that's 5 p.m. And you know, I asked my command, they said, okay, yeah, go ahead, so long as it doesn't interfere with my work during the day, which it didn't mostly. And I had a lot of good times. I worked there for about 1.5 years, but then a little incident happened. I'm not going to get into that, but I just couldn't work there anymore, and it sucked because that extra cash I got from Subway, you know, helped out with a lot of things, and it kept me out of trouble. So with that being said, yes, absolutely. You know, you just got to make sure you go through your command first. Don't just go out and get a second job, then the next day say, hey, I got a second job. Otherwise, they're going to give you a lot of shit for it. But hey, an ass chewing is better than getting written up or NJP'd or anything like that. So just make sure you follow through with the chain of command and make sure they approve it first. And they may not approve it immediately. So if you want to get into the fleet, get to know them, be cool with them, and hopefully they'll say yes. But other than that, absolutely. My gunnery sergeant, my mass sergeant, they all got second jobs at a movie theater or at the rec center. But yeah, absolutely. Get a second job. Extra money is extra money. I'm not fucking complaining. And that being said, next question. If I'm single, what opportunities can the Marine Corps offer me? Okay, so not only in the Marine Corps, but I'm pretty sure across the other 4 branches, you got what's called the single, in the Marine Corps it was the single Marine program. I don't know what it's called in the other branches, but basically, obviously, it applied to single Marines living in the barracks. And they offered a lot of things, you know, it's kind of like almost like having a singles club every week. At one point, they even offered a trip to Disney World, which I was so ready to take because the trip would have taken place around my birthday, which would have been awesome. However, the Marine Corps spends so much money trying to get all this stuff together to do these events for single Marines. A lot of single Marines don't take the opportunity to say, hey, I'll go and do this. Let me go do this. And I was so ready to take it too, but because there weren't enough Marines saying, hey, I want to go to Disney World, they scrapped the idea completely, so that really upset me. But yeah, as far as the single Marine program, there's a website you can go to. If you're at a rec center, they always have like little events, whether it be something like karaoke night, or they're taking a trip to Busch Gardens, whatever. There's information everywhere about that. And it really is something I would heavily recommend that people take advantage of. I wish I would have taken advantage of it more, because I realized that a lot of the trips they went to were trips I wish I would have gone to as a kid. Like, I've never been to Busch Gardens. Swear on my life, never been. I've been to King's Dominion, Disney World, Six Flags. I have never been to Busch Gardens. And I'm regretting that now, because I could have gone for a good deal too. I mean, like, that's the sad part. Anybody who apply would have to pay, but for, about $200, a 3-night stay at have your own hotel room, 3 meals a day, a bus ride there, and just some camaraderie with Marines. But yeah, if you're single, the Marine Corps always has something there for you. And with that said, let's move on to the next question. I've never shot a gun. Okay, you're not shooting a gun, you're shooting a rifle, okay? Okay, I'm gonna replace the word gun with rifle. I've never shot a rifle. How do I prepare for that? Okay, it's really simple with this. If you are, let's say you enlist at the age of 17 with a parent signature, and you actually go to boot camp at 17. If you want, and if there's a shooting range nearby, ask your parents, especially if they're well aware you want to go into the military, and go shoot with them, because there's a lot of instructors at shooting ranges who are prior service military, and they know what they're talking about. They're not just some guy who took a shooting class to become a shooting instructor. These are guys who know what they're doing with weapons and firearms, a variety, whether it be your pistol, your shotgun, your rifle. Sorry, they know what they're talking about. So if you want to go train with the M16, go Google and see what the nearest shooting range is. It might be indoor, it might be outdoor, who knows. But that's all I can really say. Everything else you're gonna learn in boot camp. And I know you guys might notice something when I say something about boot camp. I'm not revealing a whole lot, because anything I'm going to talk about boot camp, I'm going to try to give as much details as I can without giving too much away. So with that being said, let's go to some more military questions here. Maybe something about boot camp. What is the hardest part about military life? Okay, for this question, I'm going to break it down into boot camp and getting into the fleet. Okay, for those of you who don't know, in the Marine Corps, boot camp is 13 weeks long. And the first phase, which is called phase 1, which is basically the first 4 weeks, you're there learning the basic stuff, basic combat skills. You learn what's called MCMAT, the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. And the good thing is, if you already know martial arts, that's good. But even if you know it, they don't give a shit. They want you to start over from square one. You'll learn the basics of that. You'll learn everything about the rifle you need to learn, how to disassemble it, how to clean it. Your basic knowledge of the rank system for both enlisted and officer, who your chain of command is, because they have a big wall of everybody's picture of who your company commander is, your battalion commander, sergeant major of the Marine Corps, commandant of the Marine Corps. Learn that shit quick, because trust me, it's going to benefit you later on down the road. Then there's phase 2, which moves on to the rifle range and basic warrior training. And at the rifle range, you shoot from 100 yards to 200 yards to 500 yards, from the prone, the standing, the kneeling, sitting, all that good stuff. And there's 2 tables you shoot. Table 1 is the 100, 200, 500 yard. Oh no, I think I got that wrong. It's 200, 300, and 500. My bad. And then table 2 is close range, where you're hitting like moving targets at a distance anywhere between 25 to 75 yards. But that's about it for that. Basic warrior training is where you actually learn how to, you crawl through the barbed wire, you actually get in the mud with your rifle, you sleep outside, kind of. You're actually in like this half-ass built little hut, no doors, no windows. And then you learn how to read a compass, at night, how to read a map, how to apply camo paint to your face. And they're really beneficial skills. So when you go through that, just make sure you're paying attention, because I've seen some people drop from the rifle range for doing stupid shit. And also, when you're at boot camp, don't make threats to anybody, especially your drill instructors that, oh, I'm gonna shoot that guy, because they catch wind of that, one of two things are gonna happen. Two, maybe one of three things are gonna happen. One, they will fuck you up, you know, because believe me, if you think that you can get assault charges, well, they're gonna ask the drill instructor, why did you do that? And they tell them, the prosecutor, that he communicated a threat to kill you. You gotta understand, these aren't just ordinary people. These are government employees. These are war fighters. You know, some of them have seen some shit. So a lot of them got PTSD. So don't ever say you're gonna cause harm to them, because they're gonna cause harm to you back. That being said, someone said that, and what happened to them is that they got kicked out of boot camp completely. And I remember this guy too, and he would have been a great Marine. He was physically in shape, he was disciplined, but he just had to open his mouth and say something, and they kicked him out completely. So I don't think he could ever become a Marine again, let alone go into the armed forces, just because he said that one thing. One guy even said that he had live rounds and he was going to use it on another recruit. And our senior drill instructor made sure he paid for that. So don't ever threaten anybody. It's not worth it. All right, bite your tongue as hard as you can. You know, even if it feels like you're about to bite your tongue off, bite it. That's all I can say. And then around that time, you'll go through the company commander's inspection, where they inspect your uniform, they inspect your rifle, make sure everything's good. They inspect your knowledge on whether it be your general orders, who your chain of command is, you know, how high the ribbon has to be above the left breast pocket, you know, how high does the shooting badge have to be above the left breast pocket too. I'm not going to say what it is. That's just something you're going to have to learn in boot camp, or just Google. Everybody's got Google. And then there's phase 3, and phase 3 is like the final everything. It's final drill, final PFT, and within that time frame, you also go through the crucible, which is 58 hours of pure hell. You get very little sleep, very little to eat, and it's just agonizing. And I remember going through that. My boots weren't tied properly, and my feet got blistered up, man. I mean, my toes, my heels, the top part of me, and to avoid that pain, because anytime I walked normally, I felt the pain. The only way to get rid of that pain, I had to jog. I had to do a light fucking jog for almost 2.5 days. Just jogging. I jogged the entire fucking crucible, and I didn't let that stop me one bit. So there's that. And then, you know, come to that final week, you know, you got your final inspection, and there's graduation. But I think the most tear-jerking moment is after you get back from the crucible. That's the day you become a Marine. That's the day you earn that title, Marine. You're no longer a recruit. You're a fucking Marine. And then all the drill instructors give you your Eagle of an Anchor while playing the Marines hymn, and you will cry. I cried like a motherfucker, because what happened with me is, personally, you know, for me, I always had to do something more than once just to get it right. And to go through boot camp one time without fucking up or do any do-overs, and I earned a title that, you know, that my father, my stepfather, and everybody before that had earned, yeah, I'm gonna cry. And when I held that Eagle of Anchor in my hand, and I just looking at it, I was like, holy fuck, I actually earned something. So after all that, you know, it's gonna be all worth it. Then when you get to graduation, you get your family in, you know, it'll be a happy moment. I was so happy to see my sister, and I didn't even know if they were coming or even got the pass to get on base. But when I saw them at the what do you call it? The PX, which is basically personal exchange store, and ran into them, it was like, holy fuck, can't believe I found you guys. But enough about that. Let's move on to the next question. In the Marine Corps, how much more do you get paid than the Army? Okay, here's another thing people have a misconception of, is pay. Believe it or not, everybody gets paid the same. I know that sounds like bullshit, but if you're a corporal in the Marine Corps and you've been a corporal for 3 years versus a corporal in the Army who's been a corporal for 3 years, the pay is the same, okay? The only thing that's gonna differentiate with the pay is your time in service. So let's say you have two corporals. One's been in for, let's say, 5 years, while one's been in for only 3. Because the pay rate goes up every 2 years. So because there's that difference, one corporal is obviously going to get paid more than the other, just for the fact that they've been in longer. So there's also experience with that. Another thing that affects pay is you got special pay. You know, you got hazard duty pay, which is basically being in a war zone. Then you got all different types of pay, like special duty pay, such as I think recruiters get that too. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look into that. But yeah, no branch gets paid more than any other. It's all about rank, time in, and what your duty is at the time. So that's that's the gist of that. So don't ever think that, oh, the Army pays more or the Marine Corps pays more, because that's not true. Don't believe me? Go look at the pay rates. You Google that too. Go look at the pay charts for this year for all 4 branches and tell me if there's even a slight difference. And if it's a slight difference, it's got to be only a slight difference. So with that being said, next question. Okay, this is a personal one for me. Someone asked me before, do I have any regrets? And of course, I have regrets. I regret getting out after only 4 years, because the reason I got out, and this is something I've never really shared with anybody. You know, if anybody asks me why I got out, I always keep it short, like, oh, I got out just to get out. No, and as a matter of fact, I actually wanted to retire, but the problem was, I grew up around Marines. You know, I've always been around Marines, like most of my life. You know, my dad and stepdad were Marines, so I got to go on base as a kid and interact with Marines, which was awesome. And the funny thing is, I was born on a Marine base. I was born on Marine Corps Air Station, Cherry Point. Ain't that some shit? So my life was kind of set out for me. And do I have thoughts about getting back in? Of course. You know, I got till before my 32nd birthday, which means I got 3.5 years till I re-enlist. And if you're wondering why I just don't do it now, it's because I started this YouTube thing and I already got this fan base growing, which I'm happy. You know, we're almost at 600 subscribers as of now, and I never thought I would see that number as quick as I did. I know some people get, you know, subscribers faster, but right now I'm still trying to find my niche, and I think this is one of the videos that might help out with that. But I'm gonna see where I'm at 3 years from now. Hopefully I built an audience. Hopefully I get, you know, the amount of subscribers I'm hoping I'm gonna get, because if I can get, you know, I know this is probably a long shot, but if I, by some luck, I get 1 million subscribers or even 500,000 within the next 3 years, I think I would just keep making YouTube videos and just doing that. Someone said I should do a Patreon thing. I'm not really too sure what Patreon is, so I'm going to have to look into that. But yeah, I'm trying to be a little more ambitious. I don't want the military just to be my only option out there. And, you know, for some people, that is the only option. And if it's going to be mine 3 years from now, so be it, because believe it or not, I can get early retirement. I can do 11 more years and just call it quits right there, which I would still be happy about, you know, regardless. But it also means I'd be happy about going back to the Marine Corps. With that being said, here's to answer another question. After I get out of, after someone gets out of the Marine Corps, can they re-enlist to another branch? Absolutely. But here's the thing: if you go from any of the other 3 branches, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, going into the Marine Corps, here's what sucks. You got to go through Marine Corps boot camp. So you got to go through boot camp all over again. You lose the rank you had in the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force, whichever one you came from, but you go in as a PFC. However, you do you get to keep the awards you got. So if you were if you had a combat tour and you got any type of award for being overseas, you get to keep that. That's yours for life. And the amount of years you put in from your previous enlistment get transferred over to the Marine Corps. But if you go from the Marine Corps to any of the other branches, you don't have to go through the boot camp. You get to keep your rank. There's a rumor spreading around that sometimes you get a promotion going in. However, I don't think that's true. There's no evidence to support that at all, so don't get the idea that, oh, I went from the Marine Corps to another branch, I get to get promoted. I don't think that's true at all, and that's something I'm gonna have to look into. But yeah, you get to go to any other branch, and because of the Army's reenlistment time, instead of 32, I could actually reenlist in my 40s. But here's how the reenlistment works. If you're trying to reenlist back into the Marine Corps, the reenlistment cutoff time would normally be 28 years old. But here's the thing: because I already have 4 years that I already put towards them, I get to add that to the 28. So instead of waiting until 28, I get to reenlist at 32, or before my 32nd birthday. So there's that. But yeah, you can reenlist into any other branch. You just gotta go talk to a recruiter, see what's out there for you. Because remember, the needs of the military are vast and they vary. So again, talk to the recruiter. That's all I can say about that. And with that, moving on to the next bit. We got a lot of questions, I know, but I'm trying to be as detailed as possible with some of these. So with that said, moving on. Okay, this question's a little weird. Has anyone ever died in boot camp? When I went through boot camp, no one died. Okay, I mean, I've heard stories, and unfortunately some of them are true, about recruits dying, and some of the way that some of them die is totally ridiculous, because a lot of times it's not suicide. Man, suicide does happen. Recently in the news, I was reading that 4 drill instructors being charged because a recruit committed suicide. And I'm not going to touch on that story just yet, but as far as dying, some people just died because of exhaustion. One kid that I read up on actually drowned while going to swim qualification. He just couldn't swim. I remember another kid, died during a run. He just flat out died during a run. No one knew what happened. No one really knew what caused it. His body just shut down. So unfortunately, it is true that some recruits do unfortunately pass away at boot camp. And I say pass away because I don't like saying the word die or like that. I don't know. I don't know why. That's just like a little weird mental thing with me. But if that does happen, and I really do feel sorry for the families who had to go through that, because their child was trying to earn this title and they died doing it. But sometimes there's only so much you can do. If a recruit takes their own life, there's really no control over that, and sometimes you don't even see the signs. And if you do see the signs, they will put that recruit on suicide watch. But yeah, unfortunately, again, it is sad to hear that recruits sometimes take their own lives during boot camp, and it is sad to hear that they just couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle it. They could have easily gone to a chaplain and talked about it, and if anything, they probably just could have gone to another branch of service or just seek professional help. I haven't really read up on anybody committing suicide at the rifle range. If it has happened before, again, my deepest condolences to the families for anybody who lost a loved one. And I think that's kind of like the fucked up part is, there's no reason to take your own life. If you can't handle it, you can't handle it, okay? At least if you're going to go home or go to another branch, go home with your head held high and said, hey, at least I tried. I had the courage to stand on those yellow footprints. And I know this question was pretty personal, so if anybody felt offended by this question at all and me answering it, again, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend anybody. So that's really all I have to say about that. It's so fucking, I don't think words can describe that, so I'm just going to leave it at that and move on to the next question. We only got a couple more questions here, and then we're going to move on to something else. Okay, here's a question I've gotten before. How do I feel about women in the military? Okay, here's the thing. There's always been this big controversy about women in the military. One of the biggest controversies is about having women in the infantry. First off, okay, in my personal opinion, and I heard this coming straight from who was Sergeant Major at the time, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major Ken. That question was asked for him too, and his only response was, not in this Marine Corps. How do you feel about women in the infantry? Not in this Marine Corps. And we were in an auditorium full of Marines, and everybody stood up and just gave that man an applaud, even other female Marines. And, I don't doubt, the efforts and willpower of women in the military. I really don't. Because my gunnery sergeant, despite the fact that her desk was just covered in Hello Kitty, she was a badass. No one dared cross her. I called her Mama Bear, not directly because I don't know how she would have taken that, but she really was Mama Bear. She could be, I'm not going to make it sound bad. She could be uptight, she could be strict, she can raise her voice, but at the same time, she could be fair, she can be caring, she can be understanding, she could level with you on a personal level. And, that's what I loved about her, and, I miss her every day. So, I know I said I wasn't going to say any names in this, so I'm kind of breaking my own rule. Gunnery Sergeant Brown, if you're watching this, thanks for everything, and I'm sorry I was such a pain in the ass when I was over at Camp Lejeune. My deepest apologies on that. But yeah, and believe it or not, there is actually a fair number of women in the military, especially the Marine Corps, who say they don't believe women should be in the infantry. And the biggest problem with this is mostly because of the idea of, male infantrymen and female infantrymen. Actually, I don't know. Can you say infantrymen? I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that shit. But, men and women in the infantry, and there just be problems, all about, oh, there's going to be rape, there's going to be sexual assaults. And the fucked up part is, in the military in general, and I hate to say this, that already exists. There's already a fair number of sexual assaults. And unfortunately, due to some studies, the Marine Corps has the highest amount, and that's because a lot of it has to do with what Marines go through. Marines go through so much shit, from being away from their loved ones for 7 to 13 months at a time on a deployment, and there are cases where a lot of Marines' spouses, and I can't speak for all of them. However, unfortunately, from the stories I've had with other Marines I've worked with or Marines I come across, a lot of times their spouse will cheat on them. Sometimes with someone within their husband's command, and that's the fucked up part. You're supposed to trust each other. That's your brother. That's the person you're supposed to trust in a war zone. And you find out that she's been cheating on this person, behind your back, that's gonna fuck you up. That's really, really gonna fuck someone up. So with that in mind, I know they're trying to push forward for more women to be in the infantry. I can only say more power to you if you can, but ultimately the feeling is mutual. Kind of like, I don't know the word military right or war wide is, as far as infantry goes, but as far as women in the military, it's what it is. They can do stuff I couldn't do. A lot of them were more fit than men. Do I think that the PFT is a little different? Well, that's because you can't put women and male PFTs, which is the physical fitness test, in the same category, because men are required to do pull-ups as one of their things, whereas women do a dead hang, which is is it called a dead hang? I forget. No, what's it called? I forget what it's called, but basically they hold their chin over the bar for as long as they can. Run times are a little different, crunches are a little different, but hey, it is what it is. Okay, and I think I'll make this the last question, because there's still questions I want to answer, so there'll definitely be a part 2 to this. Okay, last question is, what should I not do in the military? Okay, this one's kind of ambiguous. Okay, I'll definitely tell you things you definitely shouldn't do. One, if you're around someone who's higher ranking than you, don't argue with them. Always remember, ears open. How's it go? Oh God, I know your mother is so fucking saying. I feel embarrassed now. Ears open, mouth shut. Just listen to them. Make sure you follow all orders. Be courteous, definitely. Another thing you don't want to do is don't drink and drive. That's all I can say, because I know it touches on about Marines dying, or recruits rather, but when a Marine dies and it's not in a battlefield or on a war zone, it's never pretty. Either way, it's never pretty. But I prefer, as a Marine, to die on the battlefield rather than behind the wheel while being drunk. And that's another issue in the Marine Corps is alcoholism. I'll say it like this, dude. As far as do not drink and drive, if you're that one guy who could stop it, by all means, be the DD. One night of drinking isn't going to kill you, okay? One night of everybody hammering away is definitely more than likely going to kill you, if not fuck your career up, okay? That's all I can say. So you can be the DD to say, hey, I'll drive, or better yet, call a taxi. Don't take the risk, okay? Because loss of pay, loss of rank, and the embarrassment. Speaking of embarrassment, there's an old saying I live by: don't embarrass the name on your left and don't embarrass the name on your right. And what I mean by that is Marine Corps camis have 2 names on them, on your left and right chest. One reads your name, your last name, and the other one reads United States Marine Corps. Don't embarrass those names. If you've been drinking too hard, call someone. Call a fellow Marine who has a car who might be sober, might be close by or something. Call them, see if they can pick you up. It's just simple as that. Or take a taxi, take an Uber, do something that's not gonna fuck your career up. Let's see, what else should you not do? One, if you're in boot camp, I'm gonna say some more boot camp related stuff here. One, do not lie at all, because somebody whose name I'm not gonna say, we'll just call him Gomer Pyle because he was kind of heavy, tried to lie about our drill instructor. He tried to say that our drill instructor was denying us mail, he was doing all this stuff, which was totally not true, and we backed up the drill instructor on this one. And because he lied, our drill instructor put his hands on this recruit and started pushing him around and got up against the wall, because he was trying to lie and fuck up our senior drill instructor's career, which is messed up. So definitely don't lie. Be honest. Have some integrity. Because the truth hurts, but if you tell the truth, the most they can do is chew your ass out. Because there's nothing worse than a Marine who lies. If you fucked up, be an honest Marine about it. Another thing you should not do. I'm gonna say this to anybody who is thinking about going into boot camp, because there's this thing in boot camp called the moment of truth. It's basically when they ask you, who here has ever smoked pot or anything like that? Do not raise your hand. You are the cleanest motherfucker on the planet. You don't do drugs, you don't drink, you've never done anything. You drink Diet Coke for a living, okay? And the fucked up part about this thing is, I remember one kid, I'm pretty sure one kid, you know, raised his hand, he was honest, like, oh yes, I've smoked in the past. And what he did with that wasn't because of, you know, trying to be an honest person, is because of fear. Because in the Marine Corps, they try to instill this fear on you that, you know, oh, if anybody who's lying, we will find out, and you will go to jail. That is not true. At Parris Island, they cannot send you to jail for that. The most that can happen is you take a urinalysis, if it comes back bad, then what they do is they just drop you completely because you failed the urinalysis test. And that's another thing. Don't smoke weed a week before, or actually don't smoke weed at all, you know, before you go in. I don't care if it's a week or a month, just throw stuff away. Don't even bother smoking. You go cold turkey and just be clean off the stuff. That way you don't risk the urinalysis coming back as positive for weed. That's all. That's another thing. Don't do that either. And another thing you should not do is, here's another thing. After boot camp, you get 10 days of leave, which means you get to go home, relax, and 10 days. After 10 days, you go to MCT, which is Marine Combat Training, which I think I'll answer that question here next. But a lot of times, some people fuck up. I remember a guy I went to, I saw him at MCT, but he wasn't there to train. He was in a line with people who took another urinalysis, and they didn't pass it. Why? Because he went home, I don't know what he did, whether it been smoking weed or doing whatever, and he got caught in the urinalysis, and he got kicked out. So that's another thing. If you go on leave, don't do the drugs. Do not do the drugs. Okay? Stay away from pot. If you're going to drink and you're old enough, have a beer. You know, that's all I can say, because they can't really do anything about that. That just gets out of your system practically immediately. But as far as other drugs go, don't do them. Don't be stupid. Don't take those 13 weeks that you sweated, bled out, and practically cried for the uniform you got, because Marine Corps uniform is a pretty damn good looking uniform. Best looking uniform in the whole branch. In all the branches, actually. So that's another don't do. What else? I'm pretty much sure there's a lot of don'ts, but some of them are just like common sense. You know, so with that being said, here's another thing. Another question is, what do I do after boot camp? Well, after boot camp, there's two things you gotta go through. There's MCT, which is Marine Combat Training, which really isn't too much. It's just a month of you learning, you know, more weapons, such as your 203 grenade launcher, your 249 saw, you know, how to fire them, how to load them, how to fire a rocket launcher. Now, mind you, you're not shooting actual rockets. What they do is they've messed with the rocket launcher, so they shoot 9mm tracer rounds. The reason for this, because when a 9mm travels, you know, across the distance, when it goes like this, kind of like an arc, and hits its target, it's almost as if you shot a rocket going straight at the target. And it's cool because you get to fire and you get to see the bullet just fly and hit your target, bing, bing, bing. They show you how to load it, how to check and everything. And everything else is kind of bullshit. Like, everybody always admits that MCT is like a month of bullshit and it's a month you'll never get back. Then after you graduate MCT, which is really no big deal, you go into your MLS school. And with your MLS school, that kind of depends on a few things. Wherever you decide to be, you might go within the same state. With me, my MLS school is right next door to MCT, so it was just a simple drive down the road. Well, other people had to take planes like all the way over from North Carolina to Texas to wherever their MLS school was. And then after MLS school, depending on how long it is, because they vary, you go into the fleet. And from the fleet, you just do your job, and that's about it. And I think that's it right now. I know I've kind of rambled on. I was trying to be as detailed as possible with these questions. And with that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. If you really enjoyed this video and it was informative for you, please drop a like down below. And also feel free to share this video. And also feel free to subscribe. You know, we're almost at 600 subscribers. If you guys have any more personal questions you might have that I may not have covered, which I'm pretty sure I didn't cover, please let me know in the comments below, or send them to my email that's attached to my YouTube page at tmacchannel@gmail.com. You leave them over there. If you guys want to see me do any more other type of reactions, because I'm going to have gaming up here on this channel here soon, so definitely be on the lookout for that. With that being said, that's it. You know, hopefully this helped you out. Hopefully this helped you understand a little more about the Marine Corps and my own personal lifestyle from it, or I'm not sure how to word that correctly. Basically, what I got out of it, and that's all the Marine Corps is, or the military. It's what you put in is what you get out. Okay, and that's about it. Again, if you guys have any other questions, just let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. No matter how stupid they might sound, or what. It's getting late. You know, it's like past midnight. I'm tired as hell. And with that being said, I will end this here on a high note. And again, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later.
Now I live free, and I mean to inflict the grief, and the least of me is still out of your reach. The killing machine's gonna do the deed until the river runs dry.